Speer now faced the wrath of the Allied court. The Allies wanted a showcase trial conducted on an international scale to show the world that the murder of millions of Jews, complicity in the Holocaust, use of slave labor, and their involvement in Hitler's insane plans would not go unpunished. As the defendants filed in, it seemed like a gathering of old friends. Albert Speer took his place amongst them. They faced two judges from each of the big four Allied states. The indictment was read out on the morning of November the 20th, 1945.
The wrongs which we seek to condemn and punish have been so calculated, so malignant and so devastating that civilization cannot tolerate their being ignored.
All the defendants face the same charges: conspiring to wage war, crimes against the peace, but more significantly,
war crimes. Guilt has been fixed on those who turned Europe into a wilderness of ruin, homelessness, and hunger. Crimes against humanity.
The case against them was damning, especially when filmed evidence of the atrocities committed in the concentration camps was shown to the court.
What? For what?
As Speer sat through the films and listened to the harrowing accounts of witnesses, he was often seen to have tears in his eyes.
Oh yeah, one sec.
Will you state your full name, please? After me. I swear by God.
But when Speer took the stand on June the 21st, 1946, 7 months after the trial had begun, he did something that would surprise everyone.
That I will speak the pure truth.
Oh, his survival strategy was not to deny his association with Hitler. He admitted that because he couldn't deny that. Not to deny the pride he had as a young figure in the Third Reich. He couldn't deny that. But to separate himself, this is very central to his strategy, to separate himself from the other high Nazis, whom he knew we would discover were a bunch of thugs.
Ohne Rücksicht auf das eigene Volk den Krieg fortsetzen wollte. Es war mir klar, dass beim Verlust des Krieges sein Schicksal mit dem des deutschen Volkes verwechselte.
Speer attempted to persuade the court that he had been swept along in the great tide of events, with little or no influence over the evil heart of the Nazi regime, and no knowledge of the Holocaust. The main case against Speer rested on his brutal employment of millions of slaves by the factories under his control. On this count, Hitler's former architect was vulnerable, especially when evidence was produced proving he had been present at various meetings and the use of slave labor was discussed.
Yeah, come in.
As he'd not personally been responsible for shipping them in, Speer told the prosecution it was not his job to question the methods employed by his co-defendant, Fritz Sauckel, then Minister of Labor.
Speer was quite prepared to see Sauckel hang, and Sauckel, under interrogation, said of Speer, "There is a man you should hang." The relations between the two were not exactly warm.
Und Sauckel ließ sich dazu den Auftrag geben, 3,5 Millionen Arbeitskräfte aus den besetzten Gebieten zu holen.
Blaming Sauckel was not the only tactic employed by Speer. Albert Speer did something unprecedented. Something that would set him apart from his co-defendants.
Weil seit dem 20. Juli
He resorted to an apology and an admission of responsibility. But it was an apology with a twist.
Officially, what he said, I didn't know. I should have known. I could have known, but I didn't.
I stated when I was in the witness box that I am responsible for all those things, for all the slave labor. I didn't avoid telling clearly to the judges what I did, and even I felt responsible when it were orders of Hitler. Others accused, they always were claiming that it were orders of Hitler. I didn't do that.
He never said, I'm guilty. He said, I am responsible, and I accept the responsibility as a member of that government.
It was a curious defense. Speer accepted culpability while denying any actual knowledge of the crime, a form of guilt with diminished responsibility.
Come in. I bought some.
In an attempt to prove his anti-Hitler credentials still further, Speer even described how he planned to kill the Führer by dropping a poison gas canister into his bunker through an air intake.
I want green pepper.
Weil seit dem 20. Juli nur ein engerer Kreis noch Zutritt zu Hitler hatte.
His co-defendants laughed it off. The trial lasted until October the 1st, 1946.
The leaders of a nation are brought to judgment for crimes that shocked the entire world. For Goering, death. Dönitz.